Dickey Betts, born Forrest Richard Betts on the 12th of December 1943 in West Palm Beach, Florida, was one of the founding fathers of Southern rock, a man whose guitar could sing as clearly as his voice, whose songwriting bridged country, blues, and jazz into something uniquely American. Raised in Bradenton, young Betts grew up surrounded by music. His family encouraged him to play from an early age, and he cycled through ukulele, banjo, mandolin, and finally the electric guitar, the instrument that would define his life. In the late 1960s, Florida was a hotbed of musical experimentation, and Betts's melodic yet fiery style made him stand out. His guitar phrasing was lyrical and emotional, blending the twang of bluegrass with the bite of Chicago blues. That distinctive sound caught the ear of another Florida musician, Duane Allman, and together they would form one of the greatest rock bands in history. In 1969, the Allman Brothers Band was born, a brotherhood of virtuosos, including Gregg Allman on organ and vocals, Duane Allman and Dickey Betts on twin-lead guitars, Barry Oakley on bass, and the powerhouse drumming duo of Butch Trucks and J-Mo. From their earliest shows, the Allman Brothers revolutionized live rock. They refused to conform to the 3-minute radio single, instead weaving extended jams that fuse jazz improvisation with rock drive and blues soul. Their 1971 album, A Tilmore East, remains one of the most celebrated live records ever made. And Betts's lead lines in songs like In Memory of Elizabeth Reed displayed both technical mastery and a composer's sense of melody. He and Duane played together like two voices in conversation, intertwining harmonies that felt spiritual, as though they were finishing each other's musical sentences. Tragedy struck the band, however, when Duane Allman died in a motorcycle accident in 1971, followed just a year later by bassist Barry Oakley in a nearly identical crash. For a time, the Allman Brothers seemed destined to collapse under the weight of grief. But Betts emerged as a leader, guiding the group through its next chapter. He became their principal guitarist, songwriter, and sometimes their de facto frontman. It was during this period that he penned two of the group's biggest hits, Ramblin Man, a joyous road-weary anthem that became their only top 10 single, and Jessica, a radiant instrumental dedicated to his daughter that captured Betts' gift for crafting songs both technically dazzling and emotionally uplifting. These tracks didn't just keep the Allman Brothers alive. They helped define 1970 Seconds rock. Betts's playing was never about speed for its own sake. It was about storytelling. His solos could make you feel the open highway, the southern humidity, the bittersweet pull between freedom and responsibility. But as the years rolled on, the same wild spirit that fueled Betts's genius also caused friction within the band. The Allman Brothers were notorious for internal tension, often revolving around creative control, substance use, and clashing egos. Gregg Allman's struggles with addiction contrasted with Betts's stubborn independence and fiery temper. Despite their differences, the music held them together through the 1970 Seconds and into the early 1980 Seconds, though the band broke up and reunited multiple times. When the group came back together in 1989 for a successful reunion tour, Betts once again stood beside Gregg Allman, bringing old songs back to life for a new generation. Yet even then, the chemistry was volatile. Betts's perfectionism could be inspiring on stage and infuriating off it. His commitment to his vision sometimes alienated bandmates. By 2000, tensions boiled over, and the Allman Brothers management abruptly dismissed him via fax, an indignity that stunned fans and hurt Betts deeply. The band cited personal and professional differences, but to Betts, it felt like betrayal. He filed a lawsuit, settled privately, and vowed to continue making music on his own terms. Outside the Allman Brothers, Betts had already shown he could stand tall as a solo artist. His 1974 album Highway Call was critically acclaimed, showcasing a more country-influenced side of his artistry. And his later bands, Great Southern and the Dickey Betts Band, kept the fire burning through the 1980s, 90 Seconds, and 2000s. He toured relentlessly, playing to loyal crowds who cherished his guitar work and warmed down home stage presence. Still, life off the road was not easy. Like many rock veterans, Betts faced his share of demons, battles with alcohol, legal troubles, and health scares. In 2018, at age 74, he suffered a mild stroke that forced him to cancel tour dates. Just months later, he had a freak accident at home, slipping and hitting his head, which required brain surgery to relieve swelling. Miraculously, he recovered and even returned to performing briefly, though his health continued to decline over the following years. Despite those struggles, Betts never stopped being a symbol of musical integrity. He was a craftsman who cared about tone, phrasing, and the emotional honesty of a song. His Gibson, Les Paul, or SG, often run through a simple amp with just a touch of reverb, carried the same depth as a singer's voice. Younger guitarists revered him not just for his technical skill, but for his musical storytelling. His songs often sounded like landscapes. You could hear the sun setting over a Georgia field or the hum of an engine on a Carolina back road. Betts once said that music to him was a way of life, not a career, and he lived by that creed until the end. In 2024, the world said goodbye to Dickey Betts. On the 18th of April 2024, he passed away peacefully at his home in Osprey, Florida, at the age of 80. The cause of death was complications from cancer and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, conditions he had battled quietly for years when news of his death broke. Tributes poured in from across the music world. Fellow musicians called him a guitar poet, a Southern gentleman, and a true architect of American rock. Fans remembered not just the hits, but the humanity behind them. The smile that lit up his face when he hit them in perfect harmony. The way he could make a concert feel like a family gathering. His passing marked the end of an era, but his legacy lives on every time a guitarist bends a note with soul instead of flash. To understand what happened to Dickey Betts is to see the arc of a classic American artist. A man who rose from humble beginnings, changed the sound of popular music, endured loss, conflict, and aging, and ultimately left behind a legacy of authenticity. He was never a celebrity chasing fame. He was a musician chasing truth through sound. The Allman Brothers Band's success owes as much to Betts's melodic sense as to Duane's fiery slide guitar or Greg's soulful vocals. Without Betts, there might never have been Southern rock as we know it. No Leonard Skinner, no Marshall Tucker Band, no Government Mule. He paved the road that so many others followed. And though his later years were quieter, filled with family time and fishing on Florida waters, his guitar still spoke volumes.